seated. Big turnout, Mr. Chong. Packed house, couple of seats, couple of musicians there I see in the background, old colleagues from the newspaper. Paparazzi's here. G'day, Gordon. Polytech students, piano tuners, friends and associates from Gene Sandel, mates from the golf club trying to add up a scorecard from their last round, architects, ventriloquists, well, the dog puppets here anyway, civic people, sports people, fishermen, gym bunnies, couple of suits, not the IRDs, so you're all okay, just Abraham's staff. Yuppies, upward urban, Rotarians, historians, tutors from Wit, all who are here are great people. Not a bad one amongst them. All your mates, associates, the young and the restless, mixing in with the gold card holders like me, or the last of the summer wine. And up front in the corporate VIP area where you wanted them, your loving family, all here for you, Mr. Chong or Brian, as you wanted. You have had such an impact on a lot of people throughout your 90 years of living life to the fullest. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Brian Chong's family, I welcome and thank you for your attendance here today. My name is Murali Weir. I'm honoured to be asked by Brian's family to officiate at this life ceremony for such a prominent person in the community as Brian was. It was great to see him brought in by his loving family and friends to a piece of music composed, recorded and played by Brian originating way back in the 1960s. Unlike many of you here, I was not blessed to know Brian Chong personally, though his name is synonymous to the growth and prosperity in Taranaki by his influential and prominent community family like the late Mr. Chu Chong, Brian's grandfather and father, chemist Gerald Chong. However, the wealth of information I have received has been of immense value, and I thank Margaret and Murray for their input in giving me the opportunity to listen as they told me Brian's story. It has been a privilege, and I thank Brian also for preparing this valuable document. It is gold, his autobiography, written down, and I understand, Margaret, you have one too. And it's an excellent read, and there's an opportunity for you today when we go and have a cuppa to read it in the kitchen room. I would like to now extend a very warm welcome to all those friends and relations who are online, and what I would like you to do, if you could just turn and wave at the far corner to the camera that is set up, and we welcome all those people in today. Thank you very much. I do apologise now that a lot of my mates say that I have the face for radio, but I think they were just being unkind. Ladies and gentlemen, before we focus on the ceremony, there are some messages I need to pass on. The toilets are out the back here through the door. Emergency for earthquakes, fire, first assembly points, etc. are in the car park just out to my right. For tsunamis, get to higher ground, and Mount Taranaki looks good. In all events, please move in an orderly manner, supporting the elderly and infirm, and that includes the celebrant and Abraham's staff, and try not to trample us into the dirt in your haste to get away. Again, assemble in the car parks. Family messages. Brian's family pass on their sincere thanks to you all for the food, visits, compassion and the support during this time. The many messages, both online and by phone, have been overwhelming. You have been outstanding. Your acts of kindness have been greatly appreciated. Special thanks to the staff and all his friends and associates at the Jean Sandal Retirement Village for the care and compassion of Brian while he was with them, and the support for his wife Margaret and their family at this time, and I think it was over the last 15 years. Messages to Brian's family may be left on his tribute page on the site at Abraham's, and please, if you haven't already, could you please sign the memorial books that are out in the foyer. Tributes will be given from Brian's family, Murray doing the eulogy today, and invited speakers. Unfortunately, there will be no open floor due to time constraints and Brian's wishes. The speakers will be speaking for you, and hopefully you can all find some resonation and reflection from their words. All speakers have been restrained to around about 3 or 4 so minutes. Brian wanted for all speakers to speak to the point, no waffle, and make it about him. At ceremony's end, Brian will be carried out to his extended golf cart, and after we and the family have had a break for a cuppa, he will then finally leave us under the care of Abraham's for cremation. Before he goes, you may pay your respects to him during this time if you wish. The family then invite you to partake in food and refreshments, of course, in the supper area, and then after the service and tell those stories to family that we didn't have time for in this forum. And then you are most welcome to attend the 19th hole at his son's Murray's home after we depart this facility. I think some of you know it as Chong's Chamber, and to toast Brian's life. I understand that's a BOY Emporium, so. We acknowledge today the memories of Brian's grandparents and those family members who have passed, especially Brian's late parents, his mother and father, Ethel and Gerald Chong. We acknowledge all those online and those of you who have travelled vast distances to be here, from all around New Zealand, both North and South Islands, and possibly some from overseas. Your efforts to get here is greatly appreciated by the family. Now, could all mobile phones please be turned off or set to funeral mode? Hearing aids turned up or set on live audience, or spectacles cleaned, get the tissues out. Make sure any young ones are safe and well looked after, and let us celebrate the life of Brian Chong as he would have wanted, with dignity, humour, tears, but no regrets. Family and friends, there's no doubt that Brian would prefer today to be a day of celebration rather than a day of mourning, because that certainly was the nature and personality of this man. So I urge you all to adopt an attitude towards today's proceedings that he would expect of you. And that doesn't mean that you get up and leave and go to the 19th after 9 holes just yet, ladies and gentlemen. A New Plymouth gentleman, prominent person, sense of humour, music, composer, piano, inventor, designer, made people happy, feel good, people's person, honest, dress-ups, sayings, smile, it confuses people, quick-witted, charitable, fishing, respected, welcoming, architect, wit tutor, loyal, good friend, storyteller. He had a PhD in pedantic cleaning, eye for detail, astute, gave back to family, ventriloquist, mentor, charisma, gift of the gab, modest, hospitable, gave his time, cartoonist, sports, golf, diligent, caring, dignity, Rotarian, loved life, loving husband, proud dad, doting granddad, much loved family. My thanks to Margaret and son Murray and those friends who gave me in short notice these descriptors of this much loved and prominent man. They describe more than his personality and character, they describe the very essence and the soul of Brian Chong. Our focus here today is to mourn the loss of someone we knew, worked with and loved, foremost and all to celebrate and tell the story of a great life lived and share the grief by supporting his dearly loved wife and close friend, married for over 63 years, Margaret, and their loved daughters and son, Gillian, Andrea and Murray. Margaret and Brian met at a badminton party, so I'm told, and the rest is history. Brian was the revered and much-loved pop to Melissa, Kelly, Jason, Reese, Chris, Nikki and Phoebe. To them and their associated families, we offer our sincere condolences to you all. Today you will hear from our tribute speakers and family of how this gentleman of historical descent was born in the city he loved and provided great service for. Educated at the great bastions of public education, Central School and New Plymouth Boys High School, he started work. Brian took extramural studies at Auckland University towards a degree in architecture. Brian Chong became a very capable and competent architect, working on projects like the BNZ building in New Plymouth and working on the various dairy factories around the area, the hospitals and also on educational projects. He then became a tutor at WIT, teaching the New Zealand Certificate in Architectural Drafting before retiring. As a cartoonist, he provided cartoons to the Taranaki Herald and the midweek papers. His cartoons depicting scenes of the times of local news were hilarious, and I have seen a couple, especially from this book. He was full of fun, lived a life full of opportunities, people and humour, always very much a gentleman. A very competent sportsman playing rugby, badminton, swimming, chalking up for billiards and bowls. An exceptional golfer with a one handicap and a proud clubman at the New Plymouth Golf Club. One of the first, I'm told, to obtain a remote-controlled golf trolley from a mate, only to find it was outlawed in this country due to its specifications. He represented Taranaki in the ancient game and gave back to this sport with his time by mentoring and coaching others in the fine arts and skills of this game. It was rumoured that he told Margaret he gave up golf on a one handicap that year for a year to find a wife. She also adds, after marrying me, he came back to golf better than ever and still retained that handicap. Also with the puppets like names with Archie, Ernie and Rose, and I don't know who this chap is, to name just a few, he provided hours of entertainment as a ventriloquist, especially at WIT, when he had them sitting in desks, welcoming new students in on open day. Brian was a most accomplished pianist who not only played, as you heard today, but wrote and composed and recorded his own music from the 60s on. He was known for his high work ethic, possibly passed down from his grandfather, Mr. Chong. He also had a genuine concern for people, perhaps a genetic trait from his World War I decorated father, Gerald Chong, a medic and the first soldier of Chinese descent to enlist in the New Zealand Army. I am told that his personality and this nurturing side of Brian's character may have almost certainly come from the matriarchs of his family, his grandmother and mother, women who were also of prominent historical family descent and accomplished in their own right. Another of Brian's pursuits was fishing when he wasn't playing golf. It was a pastime that he enjoyed, going to just relax, to chill. It was, as son Murray intimated, his fishing spots were his happy go-to places. However, one of the many accolades Brian has achieved in his life was his commitment to the community he has lived in. His service with the Rotarians and time as District Governor for Rotary, as well as other events and aspects in his life, saw him awarded the coveted New Plymouth Council Citizens Award. Brian has helped many, from mentoring people in their work and sports to supporting those in hardship. Such was the character of this man, all done with a laugh and a kind word. In Kiwi terms, Brian Chong was a damn good bloke. His love of family shows him to be a provider, tutor, and at times a director, all done with the love that parents have for their kids. The positivity radiated from him. He was positive to all people. It didn't matter if he knew them or not. He will be sorely missed by his family, his friends and acquaintances, and the community he lived, worked and played in. Sadly, we lost Brian last week, 90 years young. He passed peacefully last Friday. In life, he never whinged or moaned about his lot or the cards that were dealt for him. Brian Chong has ridden that wave called life and has experienced so much, far more than most, and I'm sure he loved every day he lived. I would like to finish this section with maybe his thoughts for life and end of life, and his desire for us to accept his passing and to get on with life as he has done. It's about his happy place, and it's called Gone Fishing, and it's written by a chap called Norm Murray. Lots of Murrays here today, Murray. Good to see you. It's called The Last Farewell. Gone Fishing. The weather's fine, the tides are right, and all the time I'm wishing that nothing else will matter, just as long as I'm out fishing. A leaky boat or rocky coast, it's my favourite spot. The busy world can pass me by when fish are running hot. And if the catch is large or small, it doesn't really matter, as long as I can eat the lot, smoked, fresh or cased in batter. The great beyond has endless seas with no forbidden sectors, or stormy days or rotten luck, or fisheries inspectors. The little ones that got away to bend my rod were trying. I'll say we're huge, but I confess my mates will know I'm lying. So look for me from time to time, and if you find me missing, be happy that forevermore I've only gone out fishing. I'd like to now call on his son, a man that he was very proud of, and one who knew him better than most, Murray, if you'd like to come forward.
My dad. I think Mum, talking to her a few days, sorry, I know, just take some breaths. I think Dad, talking to Mum a few days, she nailed it on the head. She said Dad was a happy man. He was happy in his business. He was happy in his sport. He was happy with his music and happy with his family. But I wouldn't say it's happy. I'd say content. You know, I can be happy, but it's so important to be content. So I add content to that. He was content with his life, and he lived it full. He did a little bit extra, and that's the most important thing. So what I'm here to talk about are the little stories that I learnt life lessons from, because that's what being dad's all about. One of the earliest stories he told me, that he was riding his bike at 6-year-old on Courtney Street. Now, just before I start on the story, I didn't have time to write the speech, so it's all sort of ad hoc, but I've got notes here. He was born on the front porch at 245 Courtney Street 90 years ago. Where is he now? 245 Courtney Street, 6 metres behind me. How fitting is that? So he used to ride his bike up and down the street, and he cut in front of a gentleman walking to work, which unfortunately the gentleman didn't swerve, and he swerved on his tricycle when he fell over. So he went up to the man and kicked him in the shins. That man was a school teacher at Boys High. Every time he passed him, he said, "You wait till you get to school, boy." He went to school. "You wait till you get to my class." When he left, he never got to his class, and he just laughed. The moral of that story, and the lesson I learnt, keep the prank going. The longer it lasts, the better it is. Plasticine models. A lot of our family members remember the plasticine models. And he made penguin models mainly, and he made a slideshow. And he would love entertainment. He'd get the family round and cousins and uncles and aunties, but he'd make sure the kids were involved. He would spend hours making these, days making them, just so he could make kids laugh. And he'd make sure and he'd put them all together and create a story, and I will be doing a digitised version of that in the near future. But he'd put the penguins' names, all the kids that are in the room, he'd name them with each penguin. They would remember that. So the moral of that story was, do the hard yards to make a kid happy. I remember when I was in Scouts, and I had a big argument with Dad when everyone left Scouts. They usually just left. They were in the 15-year-old age. He said, no, you must write a big letter and say the reasons why and thank you very much. And I go, oh, Dad, why do that? He says, because you never know. You've got to do that. That's the right thing. 3 years later, I went for a job interview. Sure enough, the guy that I wrote the letter to gave me the job because of that, because I was the only person that wrote a letter. So the moral of that story and the lesson I learned from that is leave on a good term and do it properly. I used to love coming home from school or work when Dad was there, and if Dad had a stressful day, you know it was stressful because he'd be playing on his piano. That was his zen. He would love, if he had a stressful day, he'd just sit there and play on his piano. And then there's songs that we knew and we'd sing along, and it'd be like a 15-minute wind down, and everyone would be happy for the rest of the day or rest of the night. So I learnt from that. Find the zen when you're stressed out and make yourself relaxed. I never used to want, when I was getting a little bit older and I wanted to know stuff, Dad was very pedantic and he would give you the full story if you knew what he was like. You wouldn't want to ask him anything because he would go in so much detail you think, why do I ask in the first place? But man, you learnt a lot. You didn't want to know it, when you're a young teenager. So be careful what you're asked for. That's what I learnt from that. One of the funniest things, Dad always used to go camping, and you'll see in a picture up there. We used to tow a car, and we had a V8 Holden Commonwealth Games car. I don't know if you guys remember it. It was like the HSV of Holden's back then, and I don't know why he traded it in for a Lada. He said he liked the Lada because it was Russian made and built like a brick shithouse. I still thought it was so embarrassing it wasn't funny. We went away every year, and when we were in this Lada, it's not a very big car. There were 6 of us that travelled to the Coromandel and that. I was in the very back because you were allowed to do that back then. So it was Mum and Dad, 3 in the back, and me in the very, very back. Can you imagine? I don't know how he fitted a month's worth of camping gear in there. With 6 people, and that's 6 lots of clothes and everything like that. So that was his happy place too. Camping was so important to him. He would work all year and plan it, and he would plan it down to a T. He would spend ages and hours. You'd never forget anything. I don't know why I didn't learn that, because I don't sort of plan until about half an hour before I leave. However, back then, there was no such things as porta potties. All they had was basically a chair with a hole in it, and it went up like this, and you had the toilet seat strapped to it, or wired to it. He had a big day that day fishing, and he came back, and it was like 10 o'clock at night, pitch black. And of course, you've got a big huge, and there were 9 of us using this single toilet in this campsite. So it was really sort of full every 5 or 6 days. And it was getting full that night. He knew he had to empty it in the morning. So we went in there, pulled his pants down to his ankles, and sat down quickly. Guess what happened? The chair went like this. I learnt from that, if you think you've had a busy day and all the crap you've had to deal with is under you, don't sit down too quickly. I remember he was very, very good with money, and he didn't like spending on fancy things, including what we wanted as a child. And everyone remembered nomads. Nomad shoes. I wanted some Nomad shoes. Kept on telling Dad I want them. He said, "You're not having those, they're too expensive, they'll probably fall apart in a week." He came home about 3 weeks later, proud that he bought some new shoes. They were Nomads. The lesson learnt from that. And we've got some counsellors in the room, so please take this on. Don't say no until you've walked in someone's shoes to see how good they are. Another time, and this is one on principles. I used to be his caddy, for a golf caddy, and that was between probably 9 till 12. Now, if you had an unruly kid at that age, being caddy when you're playing for a local district tournament, you want to make sure they're well behaved. And I knew whenever anyone in sight was about to roll off, I had to be still like a statue. So I knew the rules. He was ready to play in a tournament, a Taranaki tournament, and had a partner that he drew with. As soon as the partner realised there was a 10-year-old being the caddy, he said, "I'm not playing with a 10-year-old caddy. He'll be terrible for us." So Dad packed his golf clubs up, put it in the car, and left. That guy's weekend, he was devastated. The lesson learnt there, based on morals, and of course we went, it was great because he just packed up and says, "Why don't we go fishing?" So the moral was, based on principles, if someone upsets your day, let's just go fishing and make the most of it. And it might kick back on the other person. Dad was so pedantic in contracts. I convinced him on his 70th birthday to buy himself an iPad. We've all got iPads and iPhones, and when we join them up, we have to say yes to the terms and agreements. Who just pushes the button and says yes because it's just a standard terms and agreement? Not Dad. He looked at all the terms and agreements, printed them out, 200 pages, read them from top to toe, filed them, and then rang me and said, I'm not signing this. I said, "Well, if you don't sign it, you can give your iPad back." That's how pedantic he was. It can be good and it can be bad. I'll just see. All I can say is, by the way, we've got the dog on there for a damn good reason because we thought we needed one of his puppets. It was suggested, why don't we get one of the puppets and drape it over the coffin? I said, no, that's not going to be a good look. So we've got the dog. Now, you didn't know the dog's name, okay? Dog's name is Rolex, because Dad said his previous life he was a watchdog. Now, as for this here, this is another version of him spending a whole day creating this just to make people laugh. And I've actually got this in my toilet now. What is it? It's great. We all say in council not to use wet wipes. So these are Wonder Wood Wipes. He created this invention. I've just got to read it out, and this is Dad's humour. So you obviously know what the idea of them is. It says new Wonder Wipes, genuine 3-ply, environmentally sustainable, manufactured from New Zealand trees, readily available from your local timber yards, fully reusable, and it has rounded corners for your extra comfort. But in red, the most important thing is they are dishwasher safe. And no, I haven't tried them and no one else has, but if you're coming to Chong's chamber later, please don't use them. I don't have a dishwasher. One of the last things is he taught me so many things. And someone told me a few days ago, you won't realise that. I was prepared for him to die. You won't realise that until he dies. Because then all the memories will start flowing back. He taught me right up until the last breath. I've had years in the rescue service industry, and I've seen dozens of bodies, people passing, but they're all traumatic. I'd never seen an elderly die. I never knew what active death was. He taught me what active death was. It's actually a nice way to go once you realise you're in that state. I thank him for that right up till the last breath. So good on you, Dad. I'm going to be doing a big roadie and visit all our fishing spots. I'm looking forward to that.
Thanks, Murray. Very well said. I'd like to now call on if there's any members of Brian's family who'd like to speak. Feel free. The last here is yours. Okay, if there's any grandies or anything. Yep, come up here. I'm glad you did, sir. I felt like an auctioneer waiting for a bid. Dunbar Sloan, thanks. You get me on, mate.
I too have not written anything, but I wanted to say something just because of how much he meant to me. I don't know how old I was, probably 3 or 4, and I have it etched into my brain, just smashing away on his keyboard, like absolutely going ham. And now I'm 35 and I'm a musician of my own, and I can think of no other horror than letting someone smash away my instruments. But like a lot of what Murray was saying, he was there to make the kids happy. And I don't think he realised at the time the pathway he was setting me on when he allowed me to do that. Because music has now become this enormous part of my life. And I've done just incredible things with that. And when I think about all the things that I've done in my life because of that, it's because of him letting me do that. As well as that, I live in Wellington, and so I'm not here very often, but every time I was back, I'd come and visit. And every time I would leave with a new cartoon and a new collection of just various funny things. I remember he redefined the numbering system, and 12 is the perfect number, and the logic that went behind it was good. It was a bit batty, but still, logically followed a pathway. We had many discussions around lateral thinking and being able to think outside of the box when you're presented with a problem. And that too has created me a new pathway in life and how I approach everything in terms of my career. I'm often asked to look at things from multiple different points of view, and it's that lateral thinking that we discussed often that really has made me better in that respect. I never really said how much of an impact he had on my life, but it was great. And I'm glad for the time that I had with him. I love you, Pop.
Yes, absolutely.
Just got one more thing to say, and thanks for reminding me. There's one thing, and it was really important, I forgot to say it. I knew I should have written a speech. The way Dad brought us children up in the younger years is something that I don't think any other family does. For about 3 or 4 or 5 years, I actually don't know, can't remember. I was the young one of the family. All through the year, we'd build toys. We'd build toys, and they were based on, a lot of them were based on Chong, who used to peddle the same toys all those 100 years ago. They were wooden toys. Now, I'd make the wooden toys. Jill would paint them. Andrew would make the jewellery. And it'd be out of copper wire. And then we'd go down to the Powderham Street markets and hire a stall there. And we'd make what equivalent was. So Dad was the CEO, Mum was the secretary, we were the workers. And then he'd write out a list and show us how it's done, the cost of hiring the stall, and then he'd have we'd have to go there certain hours and do it. So we knew how to run a business before we even left school. We would make around about, in today's dollars, around about $500 a year once all the expenses had come out. That was our summer pocket money. But the reason why I say this is I didn't realise it. Every one of Dad and Mum's children, all self-employed. As a matter of fact, the three of us, we have a self-employed combined years of over 95 years. That's the power of what Dad taught us.
Thanks, mate. Any others from family who'd like to say a few words? Nothing? No poems? You don't want to sing at all? No, okay. All right, listen, I'll move on then, but if there's anything, just get back to me. I'd like now to call on our tribute speakers. Murali, Bhaska, Architecture. Man, good work, mate.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Nā mihi ki a koutou. Ko tai mai ki tēnei tangianga. Today, we gather to honour the life of Brian, a dedicated architect and a valued member of our community. I had the privilege of working with Brian as a newcomer to New Zealand about 37 years ago. In fact, I first met him at the interview on 19th of December 1987. Brian welcomed me into his architectural practice with open arms and took me under his wing, providing my first job and mentoring me on several projects, including the Pridham Hall at New Plymouth Boys High School. In a strange twist of fate, I was working on the Pridham Hall a couple of months ago, and I was telling the principal about my first ever drawing that I did in New Zealand. It was the fire escape staircases. Brian and I worked on it off the Pridham Hall. And they found the original drawings, and he PDF'd it to me and said, there you go, you got your name there. And it was Thompson, Buchan and Chong. I personally will always be grateful to Brian and Margaret for their friendship and manakitanga they showed me all those years ago. I remember fondly spending my first Christmas in New Zealand with the two of them and their family at their family home that Brian designed at 3A Julian Place. Margaret and Brian had kindly invited me over for Christmas dinner. It is particularly memorable for me, not only because Margaret taught me how to correctly hold a fork and a knife, something I had never had to do. After all, not everyone in the world uses a fork and a knife. But also because I unknowingly overstayed my welcome at their house that Christmas Day. You see, celebrating Christmas was something completely new to me, and for me, dinner implies an evening meal. So after picking me up at the confusingly early time of 11 a.m. and sharing an elaborate feast in the middle of the day, I thought it was entree, I continued to enjoy the company while waiting around for Christmas dinner. Margaret and Brian offered 2 to 3 times in the afternoon to take me home, to which I refused, as I was waiting for the evening meal, Christmas dinner. Eventually, in the early evening, after I didn't take their hints, it was time for me to leave. Brian told me he was taking me home as they had an early start to go away in the morning, the annual camping trip. It seems there was a misunderstanding of what exactly I had been invited to, and as a result, I became the Christmas Day guest that refused to leave. Many a Christmas dinner that I've attended since, I've often thought fondly of Brian. Regardless of this embarrassing mishap, I will continue to remember the kindness, friendship, and hospitality Brian and Margaret showed me in my early days in Aotearoa. Brian's meticulous nature and his passion for his craft were evident in everything he did, from his architectural designs to the way he organised his life. His fastidious attention to detail that the others have talked about not only made him a brilliant architect, but also made the practice easier for those around him, like me. Each of his drawings would be exceptionally detailed and presented with the utmost composition. Brian's quick wit and humour brought joy to our work, reminding us that laughter is as important as diligence. One of my lasting memories of Brian is his garage at 3A, Julian Place, the family home that he designed, an organised haven where everything was meticulously labelled and arranged. It perfectly reflects his character. That was Brian, precise, thoughtful, and always prepared. As I reflect on Brian's architectural legacy in Taranaki, a few architectural projects stand out. The St. Philomena's Church in Brooklands. Brian and Murray Thompson designed and built the new chapel. The Methodist Church in New Plymouth. Brian designed the beautiful font and the Bible lectern. The church also has a very steep roof, and Brian designed the lightning conductor, which I have to say is an extension and very much in keeping with the form of the church roof. Brian collaborated with the city engineers on the city's viaduct design, where Leach Street passes over Carrington Street, quite an innovative design in the CBD. And lastly, I wasn't aware until recently that Brian designed the New Plymouth Fire Station, as well as a number of other fire stations around Taranaki region. And I will continue to think of Brian and his legacy in New Plymouth whenever I pass the fire station on my daily commute. Brian worked on numerous house designs and renovations, and he was an early adopter of technology, starting to use CAD and other software programs as early as the 1980s. However, his true passion always remained in freehand sketching. When working with his residential clients, he insisted on gathering everyone around the kitchen table, taking the time to truly listen to their ideas and sketching options of design right in front of them. With pen and paper in hand, he would sketch options of design concepts, a collaborative and interactive process that is very much part of architectural design. His love for sketching endured through his life, and many of you may have enjoyed his cartoons, which regularly appeared in local publications over the years. Brian's legacy will live on in the projects he completed and the lives he touched. We will remember him not only for his professional achievements, but also for the kindness and friendship. Thank you, Brian, for everything. You will so deeply be missed by all. Tēnā koe hoa, moi mai rā, moi mai rā, moi mai rā.
I'd like to call on now, please, Mr. Geoff Ward from Rotary.
Good afternoon all. Thank you, Margaret, for inviting me today and the opportunity to speak on behalf of Rotary and myself. I first met Brian in the 60s when he was working for my grandfather, Graham Harvey, as probably a junior architect. I'm not sure of the training program there, but he was at his drawing board, and I, as a student, got up to him. I wanted to talk to him about what he was doing, and it was quite amazing how he showed me the details of the drawing he was doing. And even then, he had drawings on the side and doodles on the side and little sketches of how he's thinking of the project. I think the project was, as mentioned, was the B&Z building on Bryme Street, but I think he also did the State Insurance building in Leata Street with my grandfather. And they worked in the King's building, and they were on the corner there, and you always look out the window there to see what was going on. And I remember as a child, probably before actually Brian joined, was that we all stood at the King's building and watched the Queen go through. So that's the timing of that location. Yes, and so the construction drawings I actually saw were impressed me, even as a child, how his detail was there, and I think the success of his architectural practice as we talked through is reflected in that direction. And we also then saw his cartoonists, and it was great. His architectural highlights have been mentioned already, but Pridham Hall, as I was on the board there, to see how Brian and his team upgraded that for the earthquake proofing, and you don't even recognise all the structural details are done. It's a very, very famous building in Taranaki, and if you get a chance to look at it, please do. And I remember him telling me that Whiteley Church, he actually is not fond of heights, but he actually dared and went right all the way to the top where the lightning arrestor was, and actually got a photo set up there because that was a big thrill for him, and I think he's a very brave man. You look at Whiteley Church, it's a very high place to climb up there. He joined then to Rotary. He joined our New Plymouth North Rotary Club in April 1973, after being introduced by the late Ian Dalgleish. The club was formed in 1972, so he's a very new member of the club, and he was introduced by my grandfather and Ian, both being foundation members. His talent was soon realised within the club, and he became president in 1975, just 2 years after he joined. In the club, he was passionate about promoting an international exchange program for secondary school students. I think you'll recognise his love for children there. Some of these students are still in contact with their host families today, and the program is still running very successfully throughout Rotary International. During his time, his cartoon skills came to the fore, as we all talked about. We all entertained in his newsletters. He produced a cartoon book to sell as a fundraiser. You got a copy of it, Margaret? She must have somewhere. We must get a copy for you of that. He was also a ventriloquist, as we heard, but some said, well, he had to work on it. And his puppet Archie, we're not sure which moved the most. He was awarded a Paul Harris Fellow in 1988, and that is the highest accolade which can be given to a Rotarian. And as stated, he was elected district governor in 1993, and that's a very responsible position within Rotary, where he had to look after all the Rotary clubs, and I think we're about 70 at the time, between Wellington and New Plymouth, all down the west coast of North Island, and had to plan over that year to visit every one of the clubs. Now, that's a big task, and when you consider the number of Rotary clubs and try to visit them all over a year, kept him busy. And I'm just trying to really, and the presidential Rotary for that year, the citation was for that year was believe in what you do what you believe in. I think that's very appropriate for Brian for that. Margaret was an important role in all his work, and this Rotary Fellowship, with her arranging all the birthday cards for all the spouses over those years, thank you for that. And I'll conclude by saying a comment from the existing District Governor, Jocelyn Haig, Hi John, please pass my condolences on to your club at the passing of PDG Brian Chong, another amazing Rotarian at rest. My thoughts are with you all. Thank you.
I'd like to go now to his sporting passions and call on New Plymouth Club member and club professional, an honest man with an honest golf tally card, Mr. Grant Moorhead, if you're there, Grant.
Kia ora. Thank you, Murray. To Margaret and the Chong family, it is a privilege to be here to celebrate Brian's life, and I offer my sympathies and those of the New Plymouth Golf Club, particularly those of us who have had an associational friendship with Brian over the many years of his involvement in the club. I was asked by Margaret to talk on behalf of the New Plymouth Golf Club, and I will now share some memories and a few of the many contributions that Brian made to the club. Incredibly, the Chong family have an association with the New Plymouth Golf Club which dates back over 100 years, starting with Brian's father Gerald, who was a Taranaki and New Plymouth Club champion, and carrying on with Brian, Michael and Gary. Brian joined the New Plymouth Golf Club in 1950 as a junior boy member, and he quickly developed a passion for the game, which obviously came from his father, and he'd been involved with some caddying for his dad, as Murray was involved with caddying for Brian, and a love of practice, something he enjoyed all through his golfing life. Working on the technical aspects of the golf swing really was a perfect fit for Brian. With his game improving rapidly, he won the Intermediate Club Championship in 1953, as well as the Taranaki Schoolboys Championship. And within a few years, he was representing Taranaki in the Freiburg Rose Bowl Interprovincial Tournament. I think he represented Taranaki 3 times in the top provincial team, and that was a real highlight in his golfing career. He was also the runner-up to Tom Jeffrey, another famous Taranaki golfing name, in the 1956 Taranaki Match Play Championship. There's a few interesting things I noted down that Brian did at New Plymouth Golf Club. He worked on committee, had various stints over many years on the committee. He was the tournament director of the Taranaki Open in its early years, through the mid-90s, and was the first chairman of the board when the club moved to a board structure. Talking to his brother Michael in the last couple of days, he was telling me how he introduced the Summer Cup competition at a time when almost all the golf season was played through the winter months. He thought some of the club's competitions should be played in the nicer weather, and I guess you can't argue with that. He donated the Chong Cup for the New Plymouth Golf Club Junior Boys Championship in the mid-80s, and I'm very proud to say that I have my name on that trophy, a couple of times I think. And in between all this, he played a lot of golf on his beloved Ngā Motu course, and enjoyed the mateship and camaraderie of the many friendships he developed at the club. Now to a few of my personal memories. My family has had a long association with the Chong family. Michael has been one of my dad's best friends since childhood, since they were kicking around the neighbourhood in central New Plymouth all those years ago. And although Brian was a few years older than him, they have had an enduring friendship over their lives. In the 1980s, I was a teenager spending a lot of time at the golf course, and so I got to know Brian well, because he was very involved at that point. I enjoyed chatting with him, as he was always happy to entertain with a golfing story, or possibly a joke or two. I saw him as one of those members who helped to make things function smoothly at the club. He was friendly, helpful, and the type of person who would always be there when called upon to apply his many skills to a wide variety of tasks and projects. I remember Dad saying how great it was working with Brian on his committee, as he was always super organised in everything he did, which has been touched on, and all of us that know Brian know that side of him, or the way he organised his life. Brian had a bit of a tendency, or quite a tendency, towards perfectionism in his tasks. He would take on, and this was perfectly illustrated in something he became well known for in the golfing world, his immaculate tournament scoreboards. Seeing him lay these out on the clubhouse whiteboard with his set of multicoloured whiteboard markers was a sight to behold. And we witnessed it many times while we were upstairs playing pool in our teenage years. Not in the days of not having electronic scoreboards, of course, you had to do the whole board, and it was quite incredible what Brian could do. Of course, if you found your way onto one of Brian's leaderboard teams, it was important your skills were of a suitable standard. Michael was telling me that Brian would even give tutorials to the scoreboard crew on how to write the numbers using his technique. In particular, the number 9, I think he mentioned. He was also responsible for writing up the scoreboards at the New Zealand Open for a number of years at the request of his good friends Roy and Terry Pullman. So on many occasions I was able to catch up with him there after the rounds and admire his work while I checked out the scores. Another great example of Brian's talents, sense of humour and golfing passion are on display here today. 3 putters, you can see in the front there, of the 20 or so from the New Plymouth Golf Club that brought much joy and amusement to the juniors that were able to use them. They feature some interesting designs that surely only Brian could have come up with. One with a tape measure attached to it, which would be great for closest to the pin competitions, and another that looks to be an early version of the well-known Odyssey 2-ball putter. You can all give them a go after I've finished. I don't know if we've got any golf balls, Murray. The carpet looks like to be a good green speed though. Yeah. In 1998, Brian received one of the ultimate accolades, and in what was a recognition of all that he had done for the club, he was awarded life membership of the New Plymouth Golf Club, an immensely proud moment for him and his family. Brian, your contribution in life and in golf has been considerable. As we bid you farewell, I would like to finish with this golfing poem by Michael Ashby. As the 18 flags flew at half-mast and glasses were soberly raised high, the latest member was having a ball at the golf course in the sky. Freed from the gravity of the situation, the first tee shot soared through space, bringing a wondrous beaming smile to a kind, down-to-earth face. Surrounded by old friends, once thought never to be seen again, the infinity course beckoned ahead. 18 holes were for mere mortal men. Rest in peace, Brian.
We're going to move on to the reflections screen, and some of Brian's music's also in there. Enjoy.
Why do you whisper green grass? Why tell the trees what ain't so? Whispering grass, the trees don't have to know. No, no. Why tell them all your secrets? Who kissed there long ago? Whispering grass, the trees don't need to know. told the blabbering trees. Yes, you told them once before. It's no secret anymore. Why tell them all the old things? They're buried under the snow. Whispering grass, don't tell the trees, 'cause the trees don't need to know.
Don't you tell it to the breeze, 'cause she will tell the birds and bees, and everyone will know, because you told the blabbering trees. Oh yes, you told them once before, and it is no secret anymore. I will not have gossip in this jungle.
Why tell them all the old things? They're buried under the snow. Whispering grass, don't tell the trees, 'cause the trees don't need to know.
Here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here, but you're not. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Toast to the ones here today. Toast to the ones that we lost on the way. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories, and the memories bring back your. There's a time that I remember when I did not know no pain, when I believed in forever, and everything would stay the same. Now my heart feel like December when somebody say your name. 'Cause I can't reach out to call you, but I know I will one day. Yeah. Everybody hurts sometimes, everybody hurts someday. But everything gon' be alright. Gonna raise a glass and say, hey. Here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here, but you're not. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Toast to the ones here today. Toast to the ones that we lost on the way. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories, and the memories bring back your. Memories bring back your. There's a time that I remember when I never felt so lost, and I felt all of the hatred was too powerful to stop. Now my heart feel like an ember, and it's lighting up the dark. I'll carry these torches for you, and you know I'll never drop. Yeah. Everybody hurts sometimes, everybody hurts someday. But everything gon' be alright. Gonna raise a glass and say, hey. Here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here, but you're not. 'Cause the dreams bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Toast to the ones here today. Toast to the ones that we lost on the way. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories, and the memories bring back your. Memories bring back your.
Exceptional memories. Excuse me. And if you put your hands together for Murray putting it all together, great job. We're going to close it now, so anything else? Okay. We've come to the time that we say our final farewells to Brian and start him on his next journey. To Margaret, Andrea, Jill and Murray, Gillian, and your respective families, I would like to say how extremely proud, humbled, and absolutely chuffed Brian would have been of you all today. The care and compassion that you have given to him, the respect, dignity that you have shown him during this tough time and throughout his life has been exemplary. And this gathering and myself commends and applaud you. Could you put your hand together, please, for the family? Brian will always be with you. We see him in the personality of his children and grandchildren. Each has the genetic makeup or DNA of Brian. He will always be remembered. To us all here who are gathered here and online, thank you for being here to support this family and pay your respects to Brian Chong. He would have appreciated it. Excuse me. If I can presume, I believe that Brian's thoughts for us today are that he wants us all to retain the memories of him and from this point in time to go forward and grab life with a passion and live it to the fullest and wear it out as he has done. With love, passion for families and all other enjoyments in the things you do. As said before, a quote from Brian often used explains all. Anything you could do, go and just do it. In closing, and on behalf of us all here and online, I would like to thank Brian for his input into our lives, including all of us in his life's journey. I think this verse summarises Brian's expectations for us going forward to carry on, and I thank Margaret for choosing this verse to be read, and it's called The Last Farewell. Dear friends, I go, but do not weep. I've lived my life so full, so deep. Throughout my life I gave my best. I earned my keep, I've earned my rest. I never tried to be great or grand, I tried to be a helping hand. If I helped in a team, if I helped on my own, I was more than repaid by good friends I've known. And if I went that extra mile, I did it with pleasure, it was all worthwhile. If I brightened your path, then let it be a small contribution from my loved ones and me. But mostly I cherished the family I knew in a bond never ending, so precious, so true. Now sadly I leave you and travel alone through the mystic veil to the great unknown, with such beautiful memories that forever will be the way that I hope you'll remember me. Could you please now stand for the committal? Well, Brian, time to go. Your work in this life is finished. All the drafting and CAD equipment you have used to draw and provide information is tidied away for others to use and carry on. The WIT teaching notes all filed, your Rotarian uniform pressed and packed. Your old golf equipment and clubs are stored, possibly for future use. Your resignation letter on a busy life has now reluctantly been accepted. Look up ahead. In the light is a pristine green. A golden flag with an eternity number flaps gently. Around those greens, others you know are waiting for you. Your parents wait with your grandparents, your relations, and others from this life who have gone before. Go to them. We will remain together in the warmth of family and friendship and community. We give thanks to Brian's life, remembering his deep love for his family, his warm heart, his spirit, his sense of fun, and the many ways in which he enriched us all. May the chill of darkness of his passing be softened by the warmth and sunshine of his memories that we will cherish forever. Now, tenderly, lovingly, and reverently, we commit the body of Brian Chong to nature's keeping as he leaves us for cremation. Go now and rest, Brian, in the hearts and memories of all those you love. Pallbearers, please come forward.
stanza quando manca il sole, se non ci sei tu con me, su le finestre mostrar tutto il mio cuore che è acceso, chiudi dentro me la luce che ha incontrato per strada. Time to say goodbye. Paesi che non ho mai veduto e vissuto con te. Adesso sì li vivrò con te, partirò sulla per mari che io lo so, non esistono più. It's time to say goodbye.
Quando sei lontana sogno all'orizzonte e manca le parole. E io sì lo so che sei con me, tu mia luna, tu sei qui con me. Mio sole, tu sei qui con me.